Siapa yang bertugas ya? Itunya dimatiin ya grupnya. Oh, ini belum diterima ya? Iya, Mas. Tapi jawab udah belum.
Halo.
Halo Mi. Ya, orang jauh sombong nih nggak balik-balik ke Bengkulu.
Ini suara siapa sih? Halo.
Suara siapa coba? Halo.
Kok aku ini
Jauh sombong nih nggak balik-balik ke Bengkulu.
emang ukuran sombong nggak pulang?
Suara siapa coba?
Ya ampun, seperti artis.
Would you like a drink, sir?
Sombong nih nggak balik-balik ke Bengkulu.
Aku tugasnya ngapain, Mas?
Maunya ngapa emang?
Ngawas.
Co-host ya, tukang ngadmit nyari yang berisik.
Tukang. Emang tukang-tukang.
Mi, langsung berangkat ke Korea ya? Nggak balik-balik ke Bengkulu lagi?
Nggak tahu kan aku di mana sekarang.
Ya nggak tahu lah, emang aku sekepo itu.
Kirain tahu. Siapa aja di situ?
Masih terus sepanjang hidup.
Oh, yang itu kayak pengencang.
Iya, sama itu penurun supaya tidak dapat
Jadiin
Nanti ibunya dijadiin co-host biar nanti namanya di atas.
Iya, karena gulanya itu karena gula.
Oh, mana?
Jadi jantungnya itu karena gula.
Emang udah tahu dah?
Jantungnya itu belakangan yang bulan Februari ini, Prof. Yang gulanya itu kan Bapak juga pabrik gula. Kakak saya udah 5 tahun yang lalu dapat gula juga. Terus saya udah sebenarnya tahun lalu
Nggak pulang.
Dokter Zaini itu ingin sendiri diet sendiri, tapi nggak ada obat dan nggak berhasil. Jadi begitu pagi perjalanan dari Denpasar ke Bengkulu ketemu Conet di Jakarta, balik ke sini itu sebenarnya dying. Jadi kena heart attack-nya itu udah malam sebelum
Heeh.
Udah ada suara ya. Bud, Pak Enzela masuk.
Masuk sini ya?
Kayaknya udah ini. Udah ini.
Telinganya Pak Yansen jadi lucu ya karena dia
Apa dia, Mbak? Bukan nelpon. Bukan nelpon.
Assalamualaikum. Halo, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam, Pak.
Kedengaran Mi suara saya Mi?
Kedengaran, Pak, jelas.
Oke, bagus koneksinya Mi.
Bagus, bagus.
Oke. Sehat Bu Titi?
Pak, hai
Sehat, Bu?
Pak. Makasih ya sudah
Makasih banyak Bu. Iya.
moderator. Ya.
Saya yang makasih itu kan.
Bu Siti segera.
Ya, enggak apa-apa. Kita kan masih jam 9 baru kita buka, Bu.
Ya,
Makasih, Bu.
oke.
Assalamualaikum.
Dia jam 10 malam. Dia jam 10 malam soalnya.
Oh, pas ya.
Ini saya sudah bilang, Dek, masuk, Dek. Ya. Halo, Dek Ati. Halo, Dek Ati.
Apa kabar?
Apa kabar, Dek? Jam 10 malam ya?
Iya,
Oke.
mudah-mudahan tidak terkantuk-kantuk.
Jangan ngantuk dulu ya.
Jangan ngantuk dulu. Mau ronda nih ya.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Apa kabar?
Wah, baik, apa kabar? Hati-hati.
Baik, iya. Udah lama sekali nggak ketemu ya.
Iya, udah lama sekali. Sempat ke Bengkulu dulu, saya nggak sempat ketemu itu.
Oh iya ya, tahun lalu.
Iya, tahun lalu.
Hai Mbak Nani, apa kabar? Aduh, jadi reuni malahan ya.
Bener, makanya ini teman-teman pada ini deh. Sebentar saya ganti background dulu.
Maaf nih, hati-hati. Ini malam-malam di situ.
Iya nih udah hampir jam 10, makanya tadi saya ini bilang sama Mbak Titi. Mudah-mudahan nggak ngantuk ya.
Gimana kabar? Keluarga?
Baik, ya, alhamdulillah sehat semua.
Kapan
Ini sudah
balik?
mulai agak dingin nih, sudah
Oh,
mulai
iya, ya?
fall. Ya.
Iya, ya. Kapan
Gimana?
balik ke Indonesia lagi?
Nah, kalau COVID sudah berlalu, sebenarnya tahun ini sudah rencana diri udah beli tiket segala saya, tapi kan terus nggak bisa.
Nggak bisa ya?
Iya. Nggak bisa kemana-mana ya udah. Sekarang cuman zoom aja terus.
Iya, ngajar dari rumah terus ya?
Iya. Kadang-kadang sih ke kampus. Tadi saya ke kampus cuman sebentar, tapi ngajarnya ya online aja.
Kalau mahasiswanya udah mulai offline, Mbak Ati?
Ya, jadi mereka dikasih option boleh.
Mahasiswanya udah boleh offline.
Boleh. Ada yang ya. Jadi kalau mereka mau offline boleh. Dia
gitu,
boleh
ya?
pilih. Iya. Jadi sebagian online, sebagian offline gitu.
Oh gitu. Lah dosennya no sing repot.
Dosennya ya disuruh milih juga.
Oh
jadi
gitu.
Ada yang full online, ada yang hybrid, ada yang mau juga offline juga. Kalau yang masih muda-muda masih ini ada juga yang semua full offline. Berani dia.
Iya. Iya.
Kalau aku sih waktu awal-awal masih agak panas-panas gitu, aku ada offline-nya juga. Cuman ini karena sudah dingin, jadi kan harus masuk ke kelas. Aku nggak mau. Waktu ketemu offline itu di luar, Mbak. Jadi kelasnya di luar.
Oh, iya, iya,
Ya, lebih aman aja.
Iya.
Oh, gitu. Sekarang apa? Musim apa saiki, Dek?
Saiki fall. Udah mulai
saiki
fall.
Kangen itu gimana tanamannya pada ini?
Iya.
Pada berwarna-warni.
Udah mulai kuning-kuning ini, kuning merah dan berwarna-warni udah bagus. Kapan kesini, Mbak?
Aduh, itu ini mau ke tempat cucu aja belum deh ini.
Iya.
Kami juga ini dari jarak sini Bengkulu Jakarta aja juga masih belum berani itu.
Iya ya.
Iya.
Apalagi Jakarta malah tambah.
Itu dia. Nah, habis dari sana diisolasi pula.
Oh iya, 2 minggu. Waktunya habis untuk isolasi akhirnya.
Iya.
Cucunya udah berapa, Mbak?
3, Mbak. Inje 3, udah besar-besar. Iya.
Nah, putranya diiin.
2 dari Mbak Iin.
Terus yang satu?
Mas Tommy yang tengah yang dulu lahir di Amerika itu.
Oh, iya.
Udah ngasih momongan juga itu.
Gimana sekarang tinggalnya, Mbak Iin sama Mas Tommy?
Nyebar deh, ini 3 juga nyebar. Si Mbak Iin lagi ambil spesialis di Surabaya, tapi basisnya di Jepara. Mas Tommy Jakarta, terus Ragil di Jogja. Ambil S2 profesi psikologi di UGM. Jadi ya 3 yang nyebar kabeh deh, 3 piye.
Iya. Jadi berdua aja di Bengkulu ya?
Berdua. Iya.
Menikmati.
Ini saya ngomong sama panitia sebentar.
Monggo.
Masih sering keluar negeri enggak lagi ya? Lagi ini ya, hati-hati ya.
Ya, sejak Maret nggak
Sejak
bisa
nggak ada lagi.
kemana-mana. Iya, nggak bisa kemana-mana. Nggak boleh juga sih sama universitas, nggak diperbolehkan. Karena nanti kalau kita travel, balik kan takutnya nanti nyebar virus. Jadi
di Asheville banyak ininya, kasusnya di Asheville.
Di Asheville nggak terlalu banyak karena ini kan bukan kotanya nggak terlalu besar ya. Ya, jadi nggak terlalu parah. Kalau ini sekarang yang lagi parah malah yang di Midwest. Di bangsa.
Saya potong sebentar, Mbak Ati. Ini nanti melibatkan mahasiswa yang kuliah bahasa Inggris juga, teman-teman alumni yang pada kangen, ada Bu Doti, ada Bu Ati, tapi teman-teman mahasiswa banyak juga. Terus teman-teman banyak lah itu nanti pada kangen. Tapi ini mahasiswa kami juga yang kuliah bahasa Inggris. Ini ada Mbak Larse, apa kabar Mbak Larse?
Alhamdulillah, assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Tambah langsing ya,
bahasa Inggris ya Mbak.
Berbahasa Inggris biar mahasiswa kami ini listeningnya sama apanya tambah lah. Ini yang ada nomor depan EIJ itu nomor mahasiswa itu.
Apa kabar Pak Ridwan?
Assalamualaikum. Waalaikumsalam Pak Ridwan.
Tetangga dinding ini.
Iya, tetangga dinding itu Mbak.
Iya.
Halo Pak Ridwan, terima kasih.
Halo Pak Ridwan.
Kurang bagus, dalam.
Apa kabar?
Baik, alhamdulillah. Baru bisa nongol ini.
Oh iya, sibuk ini orang sibuk tenan ya.
Pas kebetulan terus, Prof.
Setiap diundang kok mesti tumburan terus kapan-kapan booking.
Nah, gimana itu? Ini alhamdulillah.
Apa? Assalamualaikum Pak Rektor.
Salam. Ya Mas, sehat?
Halo Pak Ridwan, alhamdulillah.
Seger ya, libur ya, panjang.
Iya ada Bu Ati, jadi banyak teman yang gabung.
Reuni nih.
Iya
Reuni.
Mbak Ati, udah kita meskipun sama-sama di Bengkulu udah nggak saling ketemuan juga lama.
Oh iya ya.
Ada juga. Yo putih gitu.
Reuni di sini nggak bisa ngopi-ngopi ya.
Iya. Nanti kapan-kapan tak tagih nih Pak Rektor.
Ngopinya virtual Pak Rektor.
Wah
Ya.
itu.
Minum kopi sendiri-sendiri. Apa kabar Pak Rektor?
Alhamdulillah sehat. Gimana di sana? Aman?
Baik, alhamdulillah aman.
Ya.
Assalamualaikum.
Rame nih. Pak Siti rame nih kayaknya.
Iya.
Ratusan luwe.
123 ya.
Iya.
Pagi Pak Rektor, Mbak Nani.
Pagi Bu Stef.
Pagi Mbak.
Pagi Bang Ali.
Assalamualaikum.
Pak Ati.
Salam.
Pagi, apa kabar?
Alhamdulillah baik. Reuni nih.
Iya. Jadi ketemu teman-teman lama nih.
Kan di
ini libur-libur malah. Di sini libur Mbak Ati.
Oh sudah libur. Oh iya ya.
Libur panjang
Sumpah
ini.
Pemuda ya.
Maulud Nabi Sumpah Pemuda.
Oh Maulud Nabi. Oh iya.
Maulud Nabi, terus hanya apa? Libur panjang ya, 5 hari.
5 hari. Oh. Jadi hari Kamis, Jumat, Sabtu, mulai Rabu ya.
Iya.
Ini nggak ada libur.
Nggak ikut kampanye Bu Ati.
Kampanye. Iya nih gawat nih.
Rame kayaknya ya. Rame kayaknya ya. Saya dengerin apa?
Rame nih.
Dengerin apa? Debatnya itu. Nggak ada bedanya dengan debat kandidat presiden Indonesia kayaknya itu.
Lebih bagus Indonesia.
Debat. Apalagi yang pertama itu, aduh.
Yang pertama lebih bagus Pak Lurah daripada Trump itu.
Dan ini sangat malu-maluin.
Prof Ridwan sehat-sehat nih, seger ini.
Alhamdulillah sehat. Saya ono bunani nelpon ki selok.
Kang Dwi ning kantor ya?
Enggak, di rumah nih.
Oh, oke.
Assalamualaikum.
Proteksi itu
ya.
Ini
Wati, aman Wati.
Ini kalau libur malah banyak yang ingin bisa ikut ini. Yang biasanya sibuk langsung bisa ikut.
Ya nih udah 127.
Bu Sekretaris Senat, Bu Sularsi.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Apa kabar?
Alhamdulillah ya aman.
Mas seger toh Pak?
Saya seger alhamdulillah. Aman dari COVID insya Allah.
Oh, alhamdulillah.
Ini
Pak Ali di Jogja ya Pak?
iya, nggak boleh kemana-mana ini sejak COVID nggak kemana-mana ini kecuali ke Jember aja.
Ke Jember, oh.
Iya, karena terpaksa juga Jember.
Oh.
Halo Bu. Prof Mini sehat ya?
Alhamdulillah Pak.
Nah, Bu Ida
Apa
sehat
kabar?
ya? Bu Pur. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Oh,
Ustaz.
udah lama sekali nggak ketemu.
Iya.
Apa kabar?
Mbak Pur, apa kabar Mbak Pur?
Baik-baik, alhamdulillah. Bu
Yo, Bu,
Nani.
Bu Steph juga senyumnya itu ngangenin.
Bu Larse,
Bu
Bu
Awit.
Ida.
Assalamualaikum.
Prof Zainal.
Mas Dwi.
Reuni kita.
Reuni tenang nih.
Kalau nggak ada renper gini nggak ketemu nih.
Ini.
Iya. Assalamualaikum.
Salam, salam buat Nagi.
Iya masih.
Ayo Kang Tri, sehat Kang Tri.
Alhamdulillah sehat.
Alhamdulillah sehat ya.
Ya.
Kang Pras juga sehat nih kelihatan.
Ini kayaknya kalau mau ngadakan libur terus aja ya. Kalau libur malah banyak ini.
Iya benar kayaknya.
Hari libur ini.
Iya.
Pembicara kan tinggal gini gantian ini Mbak Larse.
Iya
kan?
Sumpah Pemuda nih.
Oh iya. Iya.
Hari Sumpah Pemuda masih hafal nggak Sumpah Pemuda?
Masih dong.
Masih.
Tapi kan kemudi.
Kan menurut WHO apa ya? Pemuda itu kan sampai 65 tahun.
Iya.
Masih muda.
Masih pemuda semua ini, masih pemuda semua.
Pemuda ini.
Itu selera Prof Zainal yang 65 ya.
Oh gitu ya.
Selera.
Kali Pak Indra. Datang Pak Wade.
Penelitian saya lagi saya
Iya, 5 menit lagi. Assalamualaikum Mbak Nani. Apa kabar Mbak Doti?
Mbak Doti. Mbak Doti.
Ketemu Mbak Ati, Mbak Doti. Iya, yang mana Mbak Ati?
Oh Pak Indra. Bu Titi. Selamat Bu Titi ya. Selamat Bu Titi.
Ya, Prof Ali. Apa kabar Pak Ali?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah sehat ya. Ya, sehat. Alhamdulillah sehat.
Alhamdulillah. Semoga semua sehat ya Pak.
Ya, alhamdulillah sehat Pak Indra.
Mana Pak ini? Assalamualaikum Dek Ati.
Waalaikumsalam Mbak Doti. Apa kabar?
Kabar baik. Gimana Dek Ati sehat?
Iya, sehat. Alhamdulillah.
Sana jam 11 malam Bu Doti.
Iya ya.
Assalamualaikum Pak Rektor.
Ya. Kita hari
Waalaikumsalam Mas Wi.
Hati-hati ya. Ketemu muka, ketemu.
Iya, akhirnya ketemu ya Mbak ya. Udah lama sekali nggak ketemu. Tahun lalu waktu saya ke Bengkulu nggak ketemu Mbak Doti.
Langsung ke lapangan. Prof Rambat, apa kabar Prof Rambat? Assalamualaikum, terima kasih Pak Ujang.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam Pak Yainal, Pak Rektor, Bu Nani, kawan-kawan semua.
Assalamualaikum. Prof Rambat.
Ya, Pak Yansen siap-siap ini.
Ya, Pak.
Ini pesan adik-adik mahasiswa yang ambil bahasa Inggris ini semua improve listening-nya.
Ya, Pak Abdu tuh kayaknya dari Australia itu.
Pak Abdo, mana Pak Abdo? Assalamualaikum Pak Abdo.
Assalamualaikum Pak Abdo.
Oh iya ini. Pak Idris.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Pak Abdo, gimana kabar Australia?
Alhamdulillah baik.
Alhamdulillah.
Bapak Ibu gimana kabar? Alhamdulillah.
Sehat semua.
Alhamdulillah.
Rambutnya makin putih Pak Abdu.
Meninggalkan dunia hitam Pak Rektor.
Putih dan gondrong, lockdown terakhir.
Tapi masih kategori pemuda.
Nggak berani cukur ya?
Iya Pak Abdu.
Iya.
Pak Abdu, kata Prof Zainal masih kategori pemuda itu 65 Pak.
Alhamdulillah ketemu Bapak Ibu semua.
Iya.
Bu Nani, kita tetap pakai bahasa Inggris, Bu ya?
Iya, sekarang ini si apa? Pak Jansen udah mulai, nanti panitia udah siap nge-off-kan suaranya. Terus sekarang it's what time now?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Oh, waalaikumsalam Bu Dekan. Ini Bu Dekan kami, Bu Ati,
Sehat
Bu
semua,
Dwi.
Bapak Ibu.
Waalaikumsalam.
Pak Zainal, Bu Nani, semua.
Terima kasih.
Mama wajan Pak.
Oke, Pak Jansen, time is yours.
Boleh, Bu.
Oke.
Bapak Ibu, kita mulai ya.
Ya, siap.
Kayaknya masih ada yang itu tuh. Oke, baik.
Suaranya biar diatur anu dulu.
Suaranya Pak Jansen.
Suara Pak Jansen.
Terima kasih Bapak Ibu sekalian. Good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Seperti yang disampaikan oleh Bu Nani, pagi ini kita akan melaksanakan RENPER Horizon Seminar Series, but we'll doing it in English. So the presentation will be in English. The question and answer also will be in English. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Professor Ridwan Razi, the President of RENPER Asia, the Rector University of Bengkulu, the Honorable Professor Zainal Muqtamar, the Head of RENPER University of Bengkulu, our two distinguished speakers, Professor Siti Kusujiarti and Dr. Titi Kartika. So today we are going to do a seminar, Horizon Seminar Series, which is part of the activity conducted by RENPER University of Bengkulu. RENPER is a regional network on poverty eradications. It is an association about 11 universities in Asia, founded in 2019. So the RENPER has many activities, especially RENPER University of Bengkulu has conducted many activities in order to establish its to reach its goal to contribute in poverty eradications in Indonesia, especially in Sumatra and in Bengkulu. So today we will be discussing a topic about disasters and resilience, specifically about the women's voices and local sustainability. So we are very lucky. We have two distinguished speakers today with us. I will introduce the speakers before they talk today. But we have Professor Siti Kusujiarti from Warren Wilson College, United States. And the second, we have Ibu Dr. Titi Kartika, which is the senior lecturer, the associate professor at the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, University of Bengkulu. Without further review, I would like to invite Professor Zainal Muqtamar to give a welcome speech. Professor Zainal Muqtamar, the time is yours. Masih mute, Prof.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning all. Dear Prof. Ridwan, President of RENPER and Rector of the University of Bengkulu, distinguished Professor Siti Kusudiarti, Dr. Titi Kartika, all participants. Hope all of us are healthy and happy. First, I would like to welcome you all to this our regular RENPER Horizon Ominar series. Today is the fourth series. It is our honor to have Prof. Ati and Dr. Titi in this seminar. So on behalf of RENPER UNIP, I would like to thank Prof. Ati and Dr. Titi for the opportunity to share with us about your expertise and experience. Prof. Ati, as Pak Jansen mentioned earlier, is a professor at the Warren Wilson College, Asheville, North Carolina, USA. And Dr. Titi is a senior academic staff or lecturer at the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, University of Bengkulu, and she also actively involved in SDG Center and RENPER UNIP. Both speakers have done a lot of works on women studies. For sure, we will have fruitful discussion and sharing at this our Ominar. As Pak Jansen mentioned earlier, our topic of the Ominar today is disaster and resilience, women's voice and local sustainability. For your information, the participants of this Ominar are very diverse. There is students, academic staff, lecturers, NGO, local government, and so on. Finally, again, on behalf of RENPER UNIP, I would like to thank the distinguished speakers and participants. Have a very good and fruitful Ominar for today. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Zainal Muqtamar, for the brief introductions. Bapak Ibu sekalian, ladies and gentlemen, I would like also to invite Professor Ridwan Nurazi as the President of RENPER Asia to give a brief remark. Professor Ridwan, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning. Honorable Bu Ati, Bu Titi Kartika, Prof. Zainal, Prof. Nani, and Pak Jansen, and all of our expected guests and distinguished participants. As RENPER Asia, I would like to say thank you for the seminars. This is, I guess, the fourth seminar in UNIP. And I would like to also invite you to come to the next Asia RENPER seminar. Probably will be held in October in Prince Sokpa University. Probably September or October, before I step down as a rector. Because in October, I am no longer as a rector University of. And that's the information from the RENPER Asia. And I hope this is a very productive and fruitful seminar, and I hope we will discuss about the topic. And thank you, Bu Titi, Bu Ati, and all the participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Professor Ridwan Nurazi, for the brief remarks. So like seperti Pak Ridwan sampaikan, insya Allah bulan Oktober nanti, in October there will be an international seminar conducted by RENPER in Prince Songkhla University in Thailand. So Bapak Ibu semua diundang untuk hadir di acara tersebut. Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you very much for everyone, for all participants, like Professor Zainal Muqtamar mentioned, coming from many areas of Indonesia, mainly academics, students from Bengkulu, from Sumatra, from Java. Thank you very much for your time this morning to join this Horizon seminar series by RENPER. So without further delay, today we will have two presentations from two experts in the topic that we are going to discuss today about the women's gender studies. Today, we are focusing our discussions about disasters and resilience. So we have two speakers. So the two speakers will be giving their speech about 15 minutes. And then we will continue with the Q&A, question and answer, after the presentations. So the first speakers will be Professor Siti Kusujiati. I would like to introduce her. So Professor Kusujiati is a professor of sociology and chair of the Department of Sociology and Anthropology at Warren Wilson College, United States. So she has conducted extensive research and teaching on gender relations, development, disasters, climate change, and social change in Indonesia and other South Asian countries. She has published numerous publications, books, journal articles, invited presentations, and others. Professor Kusujiati also a recipient of numerous awards. In 2017, for example, she was nominated for Faculty Teaching Excellence Award at Warren Wilson College, and many other awards. So without further review, I would like to invite Professor Siti Kusujiati to present her talk this morning, about 15 minutes. Professor, the time is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jansen. First of all, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning, everybody. It's 10:12 p.m. here at night, so hopefully I will stay awake, even though it's quite late here. I would like to express my gratitude and appreciations for providing me with the opportunities to do this presentation tonight, or this morning, actually. Thank you so much, Bapak Rektor, Professor Ridwan Nurasi. Thank you, Professor Zainal Muqtamar and Professor Nani. And also, I'm so glad that with this opportunity, I have a chance to actually have small reunion with my friends that I haven't seen for quite a while. So I'm really glad to have these opportunities. Bu Titi, would you like to share the...
Can I help you with the...
Yes.
Okay. Can you see it, audience?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Hang on. Can I full screen this presentation? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see. Okay, so the title of our presentations tonight is Disaster and Resilience, Women's Voices and Local Sustainability. So this presentation is based on our collaborative research and work. So Bu Titi and I have been doing several research together on related topics and subjects. So this is one of our most recent research that we would like to share with you all this morning. Could you go to the next slide, please? Yes. So these studies that we conducted in 3 different villages in Bengkulu is looking at the women's narratives on flood and COVID-19 pandemic. As you know, that there was a flood in the early 2019, last year. And of course, right now we are facing the COVID-19 pandemic. So we would like to look at the stories to basically learn about, their experience, and also reflecting on their engagement and knowledge about nature, environmental change, and disasters. Because we believe that these narratives also will tell us about the community's resilience in facing environmental disasters, which is mainly the flood and COVID-19 pandemics. We believe that by looking at these narratives, then we can uncover the hidden structural factors that affects their resilience and also their experience in facing these 2 types of disasters. Next, please. So the field studies were conducted in 3 different villages. The first one is Rindu Hati, which is basically the upstream village because it's located upstream. And then Talang Empat is the midstream village. And then finally, Tanjung Jaya is located downstream. We selected these 3 different villages because we wanted to see whether the locations also affects the ways that they experience the disasters, and also affects, how the different environmental changes affect their livelihood and also their cultures. Next, please. So methodologically, we use feminist ethnography because feminist ethnography allows us to look at variety of different knowledge. This feminist ethnographic approach look at the process of knowledge productions and looking at the notions of what is considered as knowledge, where does knowledge come from, and who have knowledge. This is very important for us because we want to look at variety of different knowledge, especially knowledge that usually are not perceived as real knowledge, right? And as feminist approach suggested, knowledge is everywhere. So we take into account the variety of different knowledge, especially knowledge that are owned by women, because we want to center women's voices and agency in this research. In addition to that, we also develop self-reflexivity and critical approach in our positionality, because we know that the different positions that we have as researchers may affect the way that we interact with the people in the field, and also affect the way that we perceive them as well. So this is a very important element that we need to take into account. So we are being self-reflective about that as well, and to what extent that our own positions, our own privilege then affects the way that we conduct our research. The more specific methods that we were using is observations. Ibu Titi had been doing this because I was not able to go to Bengkulu this year, even though we were planning to do that. And then in addition to observations, we also conducted a lot of interviews, individual interviews, informal interviews, and focus group discussion as well. And field notes is also heavily involved, because when we do observations, and while we are doing interviews, we also develop a lot of field notes. So the results that we are presenting today is the results of these different methods that we conducted. The theories that we are using, we mainly use 3 different theories, and the first one is feminist standpoint theory. Feminist standpoint theory is looking at situated knowledge, that knowledge is developed and shaped by the situations, social, cultural, material situations of those who are producing knowledge, because we want to look at this women's knowledge within the context of the history and social and cultural context that they live in. Feminist standpoint theory is basically looking at the notions that knowledge is achieved through particular standpoint and thinking process. So knowledge is based on certain historical process, and we need to take a look at that process as well. And the very important aspect that we have been looking at is the voices of marginalized group. And we are committed to reveal the practice of power that create inequality in the societies. Because of these inequalities, in many cases, women's voices have been marginalized, and this is why we want to center women's voices and look at their voices as the main point of our research. Next, please. The second theories that we are using is feminist political ecology, because we are looking at the environment and also how women are involved in the management of the ecology, and women are part of that environmental context. Then we use feminist political ecology to look at the gendered environmental rights and responsibilities, gendered science of survival, and intersectionality of gender and other stratifying factors such as ethnicity and class. So we also look at the disaster theories, because we are looking at especially 2 different types of disasters, which is flood and COVID-19. When we look at disaster theories, we especially look at disaster and social inequality, and how social inequality affects the way that members of the society face the disasters. And the 2 concepts, which is the concept of cohesive community and corrosive communities, are important, especially when we look at the resilience and vulnerability of certain communities. Cohesive communities allows the communities to develop more resilience when they are facing disasters, while corrosive community usually leads to variety of different internal conflicts that reduce their resilience and create more vulnerability for the communities. Next. So this is just a picture of the flood last year. And for the next section, Dr. Titi will present the results of the research.
Sebelum Bu Titi presentation, before we continue to Dr. Titi, I would like to introduce Dr. Titi. Okay, thank you so much. So, thank you so much, Professor Ati, for your very thoughtful presentations. Sangat banyak informasinya, Bu. Sangat full of information. So I think the presentation was very excellent. So we will continue to Dr. Titi Kartika. So she will continue the presentations. Dr. Titi Kartika is an associate professor at the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, University of Bengkulu. She has done an extensive research and teaching on gender relations, environmental issues, development, and social change in Indonesia. She has published her research in journal articles, books, conference presentations, and others. Her books such as Perempuan Lokal versus Tambang Pasir Besi Global. So this is the books by Dr. Titik Kartika, analyze the struggle of women to fight against mining companies which destroying environment. Dr. Titik Kartika is a prominent figure in gender studies and activism in Bengkulu, in Indonesia. So Dr. Titik, the time is yours to continue the presentations. Kita alhamdulillah ini tambah banyak ini pesertanya, Bu. Ada 219 ini. Thank you very much for all participants. So we have reached more than 200 people attending our seminar series this morning. Bu Titik, please.
Yeah, can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, you can share screen.
Okay, hang on.
Yep.
Hang on. Okay, I should. Okay, share.
Okay.
Can you see the presentation?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, I should welcome all of you. Thank you very much for Pak Jansen for moderating us. Honorable Pak Rektor, Prof. Ridwan Nurasi, Prof. Zainal Muktama, Prof. Nani, my dear colleague, Prof. Siti Kusudiarti, and colleagues and students and whoever who attend in this Omina. Thank you so much that you are all with us and discussing a very, for us, for both of us, this issue is really, warm issues since we collaborate our research in, was it 4 years, Ibu Ati, yeah, already?
Yeah.
17, yeah? 17 or 18, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
I will continue this presentation by sharing with you about our preliminary finding about the women voices and resiliences in 3 different villages around Bengkulu. So from the field, we note that we start from the downstream, from Tanjung Jaya village, that our research show the life of women are not quite attached and embedded with the watershed anymore. So women are involved in the watershed management or other environment issues. Yes, it is. They have flood every year. Even in 1 year, they probably have 3 or 4 cases of flood. But then again, they just, not quite response environmentally to the flood. So river and waterfront of socio-economic spaces disappear. This is all of the interviews and also the focus groups that we done last year show the reality. We did not take focus group discussion this year because we are so afraid of the, COVID-19. So we just walk from home to home and talk to some resource persons. So their involvement, particularly women involvement in disaster management, tend to be respond to existing disaster rather than preventive action. So they are a little bit looks safe because they know that the government or NGOs or other donors will drop them the food stock and other things, and also which we call it the the health support. Yeah. So in here, both of us see that the disaster capitalism is exist or occur, relying on external support and commercializing the disaster. So, and then the last thing that we learn, later I also show you about the Venn diagram that show this case, that they have the corrosive community where the competition for resource and lack of cohesive local leadership. So this is really obvious in Tanjung Jaya community, particularly for the women. I will go to the next slide. Yeah, in Talang Empat village, that we call it as a midstream, some of awareness of the impact of mining on the river and increasing pollution of the water of household uses. They know exactly that the river close by their houses and complex of living exists from the upstream, but they don't know how to cope with the problem, or even they involved in the activity of mining in the river. So river social function are declining. Some still use it as a alternatives during the dry season, as part of economic activities. Sometimes they said that they go to the river for fish, crab, or swim, but now it's getting rare. Yeah. River is partially embedded in the daily life, as I explained to you, but they step by step is declining. Development around watershed and deforestation of the upstream received to be the main factors creating the major flood. This is very interesting because then the women groups that we see, they get together in association of women farmers, or we call it KWT, kelompok wanita tani. It's very active, both in social capital and cohesiveness. Okay, yeah, this is the information that 11 village former leaders are women. Okay, this is part of our field talk. Some of the important expression of the women who are in association of women farmers to us, that they know blessing with the having kelompok wanita tani, because through the association they can okay.
Yes, we share it.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I will continue the story. According to their story, that they really appreciate and blessing with the kelompok wanita tani, because through this association they can express their knowledge and also the actual activities, and also what we call it resilience, how to produce some vegetables, not only for selling, but most important for themselves and the family. And according to the feminist theory, this is part of the sovereignty, food sovereignty principles. Yeah. Okay, the next one. Okay, this is the picture. This is unplanned picture actually, because when we went there, we didn't know that they have activity in their, like farm, we see that they have, cooking food during the activity, etc. Okay. Next one is the women voice and against the environmental problem. So there is a strong sentiment and actively fight for preserving the forest and environment, even though the situation, the threat by the climate change and deforestation. From our analysis, we see that women have strong knowledge on their changing environment and impact on their communities. We also note that strong local leadership based on culture, history, cohesive community. Local leaders have a very important role during the disaster and also the pandemic. So strong resilience, agriculture activities. Hang on, is this? Hang on. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think this is part of the second 3 village. Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Sorry. Oh, I lost. Okay. Sorry, I lost one slide. So this is a part of our analysis of the 3rd village, the upstream, that they have situation this one. Yeah, I'm so sorry, but I saw you later on the Venn diagram. Yeah, so strong resilience on agriculture activities. This is for Rindu Hati, the coffee as a main cash crop combined with the rice as subsistence. So this is what we found interestingly, that in the upstream village, we see that they have food sovereignty because they can have the subsistence rice for themselves. They don't sell the rice, but they sell for the other family needs from coffee. So trust and solidarity help them prevent environmental disaster and spread of COVID-19. Okay. This is the picture of Rindu Hati. This is the springs of the Bengkulu River. And this is the activity of the coffee farmers. Yeah, actually I will, this is the part of example of the Venn diagram analysis. You can see that Rindu Hati and Talang Empat, they have male head of the village. So women actually enter, this is the feminist political ecology analysis. So the women enter the location or venue of power through the association of women farmers. So women here who are member of the association go to the village environmental management through this association. Unlike Tanjung Jaya, which is in the urban area, the head actually is a woman, Ibu Lura, we call her. So even though they have the women association, nationally, every village we have a women association called PKK, but some of the resource person that we talk to them, they don't have engagement in the women association. So practically they cannot enter to the environmental management in the village. Yeah. So I go back to this slide. So the picture, the Venn diagram, is an example of the feminist political ecology analysis that we saw as the involvement of women in natural resource government, Rindu Hati and Talang 4 better than Tanjung Jaya, recognition of women knowledge, Rindu Hati and Talang 4 better than Tanjung Jaya, cohesive community, Rindu Hati and Talang 4 in rural, the context in rural area, the corrosive community is in Tanjung Jaya. And associate women farmer is like a potential or future of the women get in environmental management. And also we note that women organizing is very, like a potential for local sustainability. Okay. This is all of those 3 villages put this, stand, in their, what you call it, village office, yeah. So they know about the English, menjauhi kerumunan, social distancing, menjaga jarak, as physical distancing is familiar to them now. Conclusion that I would represent also Prof. Siti, women active roles and agency, including their initiative and leadership, create social capital and cohesiveness in their community. Strong community leadership create trust and solidarity that prevent corrosive community and minimize negative impact of environmental disaster and COVID-19. Existing inequality and heavy dependence on external resources create corrosive community that heighten the vulnerability to disaster. Lastly, women situated knowledge on the environment and position in that community enhance resilience and decrease vulnerability for them and whole community. So that's all we can share with you. This is a very preliminary findings that we expect to be part of our journal article that we now in the process of writing. Thank you so much, Dr. Jansen.
Thank you, Bu Titi. Terima kasih banyak. So thank you so much, Prof. Ati and Bu Titi, for the very nice presentations. So Bapak Ibu sekalian, kita ada lebih dari 200 participants this morning. So thank you very much again. So kita sudah mendengarkan presentasi dari 2 presenters yang sangat menarik sekali. So Prof. Ati and Bu Titi has presented their research results in the disasters and women's voices. I think we are also familiar with these disasters because the flood was happening in Bengkulu. So last year in April 2019, we were experiencing one of the most the worst flood in the history of Bengkulu in the last 30 years. So I think this knowledge that the presented by Professor Ati and Dr. Titi gave us a context about the disasters as well, because they were studying about the upstream community in Rinduhati village, also in the Talang 4, and also downstream community in Tanjung Jaya, which were the worst. The place where the worst flood happening. So I would like to invite all the participants for the Q&A. So we have about 15 minutes for the Q&A sessions because it is almost midnight. Hampir tengah malam ini di Espil ya Bu Hati ya. Professor Hati, it's almost midnight, so we have only about 15 minutes for the Q&A. So you can ask the questions to the chat room. Bisa tuliskan di chat room atau or you can raise your hand and you can directly ask questions to the speakers. Professor Ati, Bu Titi, we got 2 questions from the chat room. The first one is from Professor Nani, asking to Professor Ati, are there any differences between Indonesian women and the United States in facing disasters, especially the COVID-19? And from Pak Henry Bustaman, Dr. Henry Bustaman to Dr. Titi, he asked about the NGO, the non-governmental organization, how they can influence the probably the habit of the people in the village. I mean, do like contribute in a good way, or it is in a bad way? I think I'll give a time to Professor Ati and Bu Titi to answer those two questions. Please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jansen. Thank you, Professor Nani, for the very interesting questions. Well, the differences between Indonesian women and US women in facing disaster, especially during COVID-19, I think it depends on, you know, which group of Indonesian women and which group of American women, because both of the societies are very diverse. So here in the US, for example, the impact of COVID-19 is especially worse for those who have limited resources, and also for the minority groups, especially in terms of racial groups. This is part of the reasons why there has been a lot of Black Lives Matter movement here. That was part of the responses of the unequal impacts of COVID-19 to that community, especially African American communities and Latinx community, as well as indigenous communities, which is basically the Native American communities. That negative influence was mostly because they have limited resources, especially access to good health care, and also economic resources as well. This, I think, is similar to what happened in Indonesia as well. This is part of the reason that we want to look at the influence of social inequality on the way in which communities or groups of people face disasters, because their positions in the social structure actually influence their abilities to cope with the disasters. If they do not have good access to resources, including healthcare, economic resources, and also good environmental situations, then it's hard for them to survive in the disaster. So the similarities is basically, you know, that social structures and inequality both affect women in the US and in Indonesia. The differences are depending on you know, the specific groups, and also depending on the characteristics of their culture. So as we mentioned, one of the very important elements is whether they live in a corrosive community or whether they live in cohesive communities. So that applies to both American and Indonesian women. So if women live in a community where there's very strong cohesiveness in the communities, then it means that they have strong social networks. Even when they have limited access to formal resources, they are able to rely on more informal resources through their social networks, especially through their social capital. So that is similar to both American women and also Indonesian women. So their access to social capital and cultural capitals are very important, and whether they live in a cohesive community or corrosive community, then these factors affect their abilities to face disasters. Thank you so much for.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Ati. It's very insightful. So I think you just talking about the social context about all the disasters. So we may have the same problems, even though in United States or in Indonesia. Thank you so much. Bu Titi, there's a questions from Dr. Hendy Bustaman.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that, the involvement of the NGO?
Yeah, I should say that we can homogenize the NGO because NGO is also varies. Some of them come and go when there is a disaster or COVID-19 like this time, they come and go. But there are some supportive and NGO who work with them and help them how to prevent the forest and watershed to, increase the sustainability. I should say that like environmental NGO like Walhi, they probably quite long time working in Rinduhati and also Talang Empat. But then they also face some problem with the local government. Like in Talang Empat, the NGO, Walhi, as an NGO, they face to face with the head of the village, and the relationship is not good. So I should say that we have to make some analysis. Especially for the what's the role of NGO to to help work together with the community. So I think the mining and also the what we call it kebun kelapa sawit, plantation, kelapa sawit plantation. Yeah, it's really interfere to the watershed, and people just want to have benefit from the plantation, even though the individual or the big plantation. So yeah, I agree with you that some of the donors, some of the NGO that don't have the very long vision, they will involve in the destruction of the environmental along the watershed and also the forest. That's
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Bu Titi. So I'll go through the questions written in the chat room. So I'll ask the Bu Ati, Professor Ati. Dr. Abdul from Australia asked, how was the woman's knowledge about the environment measured? How was their knowledge was measured? You can reply to that.
Okay, thank you so much. That's a very interesting questions. So, well, keep in mind that this is a qualitative research, right? So that's part of the reasons that we look at the narratives rather than at the very exact measurement. So the way that we measure that is basically looking at the theme and at the pattern of the narratives. What come over and over again, what kind of themes that they keep, telling us, right? So that's how we measure it. It's basically looking at the themes and to what extent that certain themes then come up in that narratives. So it's unlike the quantitative research methods that look at the variables and measuring variables and stuff like that. With this qualitative research, we are looking at the text basically, right? So from the interviews, we transcribe the interviews and then we look at at the patterns, the themes, and then look at, you know, how many times and to what extent that certain themes are actually playing very central roles. This is part of the reasons, you know, why we use these methods, because usually when we use quantitative methods, you know, the marginalized voices are not being able to be measured, right? So, you know, so we want to focus on the women's voices and the narratives, and then look at what they actually are talking about, and that's very important for us.
So one more question for Professor Atik. So what was the first impressions? This is from Ibu Anita Carolina. What is the first impressions of these women from the villages when you did the study, or how about their receptions with the project, the study? What do you think about it, Professor Atik?
Yeah, I think Ibu Titi might be able to answer these questions better.
Okay.
But you know, one of the things that I've been seeing when I've done this kind of research is that over and over again, women's social activities and their integrations in the social activities are very important, because in many cases they are marginalized in variety of different public gatherings and also public meetings. That's part of the reasons that their voices haven't been heard that much, because they have been marginalized in the public spaces. But when they are actually able to get involved actively in a variety of public spaces and social activities, the example of it is the Women's Farmers Associations, right? So they have that space in which they are able to express their voices, and by doing that, then they are involved also in addressing issues in their own communities. And by doing that, then, you know, they are more visible publicly as well. So I think this is very important for us to see to what extent then, you know, women are able to have visibility and their voices expressed in these public spaces, and to what extent that they have the opportunities to do that.
Okay. So if they have the opportunity to do that, they will do it. I mean, the women will express their opinions about what happens surrounding them. Okay, so Ibu Titi, would you like to
Yeah, I just want to add
Yep.
a little about the question, and also I read at the chat room that Prof. Khairul Muslim also asked about
that
this, and also Prof. Ketut Sugiono. Yeah, I think to, you know, like to open or create a space for women in these 3 villages are a very important, you know, like point, because when we talk to them, this is a space. When we interview them, it's also space. And when we have the focus group discussion, it's also the space. And also 2 important words from Prof. Siti Kusujiarti is about space and visibility. If we talk to them and ask for them about their experience, daily experience, means that we open the space and then we give them the visibility. Then this is very important. Their answer to us, that's the narratives of the experience. And this is the knowledge. So that is why all of the step of our methodology in the field, our whole field work, our field talk, field note, observation, participant observation, all tell us about how the vulnerability of women occur and how to, you know, like if you want, how to improve. Like when they have the Association of Women Farmers, it's proof that they are happy and they feel free to do everything what they want. They want this kind of seats rather than that one, etc. And they're happy because they can not only for the big goal like to be a big production house or etc. But this is good because I can eat freely from this activity. I can get the vegetable from the common farm to the house and cook for the family. So this is, like very, very different method compared with the quantitative method. Is that right, Ibu Siti?
Yeah. Would you like to address the Pak Khairul Muslim questions? Is there any specific initiative or like actions taken by the women in the probably Talang Empat with the polluting rivers from the waste from the CPO and rubber factories? Is there any specific actions that they did in the area?
I think we have a problem with recognition.
Okay.
The main problem in feminist ethnography method is about when the people from outside the village, they don't recognize what the women do in everyday life.
Okay.
What women do in everyday life is like biasa. That's the problem. What we call it biasa is not biasa, because when we talk to them, actually they have, activity that they also want to prevent the river, the spring, which occur in Rindu Hati. So they also plant, like small plant in their household, in their house. Was ketika halaman and the halaman,
front yard,
and also they unpaid worker in the coffee farms and also in the like rice field, etc. So I think we should write this one as a women contribution and engagement. Engagement are also important words for us. Yeah. Sorry, a little bit, like underline this word. Word is important for us. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I can add a little bit.
Yep. Yes, Bu Ati, please.
So I agree with what Bu Titi just mentioned. Recognitions, right? Social and public recognitions of their roles and their knowledge, right? Because their knowledge usually is not considered as knowledge. It's just that's something trivial, right? So what we are trying to do in this research is basically deconstructing that notions that knowledge is only stuff that is coming from higher education or people who have educations, right? But these women actually have wealth of knowledge, and we can learn from them a lot. And if we recognize this knowledge, then actually we will be able to deal with disasters better, right? So it's not just because there's that questions that, is it because women do not want to get involved or unwilling to get involved, or because they are not asked for their involvement? Well, I would think that, well, women have been involved, but their involvements have not been recognized as important, right? So this is why we want to put their voices and their agency at the center, right? Because it has been put in the peripheral aspect of our lives, especially the voices of women in the rural areas, in the isolated areas that are perceived as not having, educations, right? The notions of education itself needs to be critically analyzed as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Professor Ati. Prof. Zainal, it's already 10, 5 minutes, 5 minutes past 10. Is that we still have some questions in the chatting box, but I would like to invite if one participant would like to directly ask or give a little bit of comments on the presentation that or discussion that we have done for the last 45 minutes. If anyone would like to directly ask to Professor Ati or Bu Titi. Or Prof. Zainal would like to add some comments on the issue, or
there is two questions from in the chat room.
There's still some question actually.
Yeah.
So we continue with okay. So Professor Ati, is that okay? We will probably about 5 or 6 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
it's fine, no problem.
Okay. So there is one question from the I think still more actually. This is from Naomi Simanihul. Okay. So she asked that in multiple disasters, so the disasters is not only once or twice. It's probably like the flood is like happening every year or something like that every year. So how the local people maintain, like she call it local resilience. It's nice local resilience. So what do you think about it? So it's like the disaster is occurring again and again. So what do you think about it? So.
Yeah, I think when disaster has been happening multiple times, actually it may strengthen their resilience, because they might be able to build a kind of disaster preparedness, right? Because for example, if they know that the flood will happen every year, then they will be able to anticipate that flood ahead of time, so then they can prepare themselves to face that flood, or also created strategies to minimize the destruction, right? So I think if the society, again, if the society has strong cohesiveness, then they usually are able to build their resilience even further by creating a kind of system of disaster preparedness, to minimize the impact of that disaster. Yet, if it is a corrosive community, disaster may actually create further conflict in that communities. For example, because of the distribution of aid, for example, right? People, some groups might feel that they do not get enough supports, and then other groups, were perceived to get more supports than they need to. Then it creates even further conflict in that communities, right? So if that happened, then that communities need to step back and actually, think about, how can they anticipate the disaster and prepare for the disaster better.
Okay. I think there's one question from Professor Ridwan Razi. So as the role of women or ibu-ibu is very important in facing disasters. So, I mean, you have explained the things to improve the involvement, the engagement in preventing the disasters. Do you think you have like Prophet Ridwan Razi asked about like the recipes, like step? What is that? What are they? Like, what do you like to refine that?
I think another aspect, in addition to what we have already mentioned, is the policy aspect, right?
Okay.
When we see that the integration and involvement of women are so important, then in the level of policies, then we need to think of how can we capitalize on that, right? So how can we ensure that women's involvement are guaranteed, or how can we create the space for women to get involved more actively in facing the disaster. So I think there needs to be both practical aspect in the local level and policy aspect in a kind of macro level as well. So, for example, the gender mainstreaming is an example of the efforts. How can we mainstream gender within the context of policy? So, how can then we do gender mainstreaming in disaster prevention policy or disaster preparedness policies, for example, or disaster preparedness programs? Make sure that their voices, their agencies are heard, but also creating that space.
Okay. Okay. You mentioned the policy as the one thing. I think this is connected to that. It's questions from Ibu Hilda Puspita. So because for example, the plots are happening every year, like multiple times, like you said before. We believe that government has done many things or projects or initiatives to prevent the disasters. So what kind of engagement or involvement do you think women should do? I mean, or did you see any government initiatives of a strong, policy, or what they're doing in preventing the disasters, and how should the women in those villages involved in the initiatives? Did you see that, Bu Titi or Bapak Adi?
Bu Titi, would you like to?
Okay, let me answer first, and then I hope Ibu Prof Siti will add something.
Okay.
Based on our finding last year, before the COVID-19, during the flood disaster, we collect some narratives from Tanjung Jaya in particular. When we ask them, are you involving in the meeting of how to respond or the preparedness to the flood, because every year they have more than one time flood, they said no.
Okay.
No, they're not attending, they're not invited.
Okay.
So formally they're not invited. And then I asked, did you gathering in the community and talk about how to cope with this? No, because the vulnerable community are not involved in the formal meeting. So basically, when if we are honest, they just they just get the aid, the food stuff from the donors, from the government, etc. And then they just happy with the rice, cooking oil,
noodles,
noodles, yeah, of course, noodles, yeah, and they don't have other choice. Like when I ask, how about if you get the period, and how to get the things, etc., and how about the baby, etc., and then some of the NGOs, as Pak Henry asked us, remind the government, remind the donor, there are so many babies, there are so many women that need the, for period stuff, and also the baby food and blanket, etc., and so forth. That's the how community acts something that responds to from the government, from the policy, and the policy. I should say that they are not learning from the experience. So they just spend the money from the annual budget and spend for the disaster. I should say that they don't think further in 5 years or 10 years how to cope with this. And people also, they don't want to move from their home. Of course, they don't want to move because they have the historical tie with the location that my ancestor, my great-grandfather, grandparents lived there, and how I just live. It's, like the social and cultural studies, not exist in this kind of studies.
Okay.
Again, I should a bit strong argumentation on this question. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Bu Titi. Pak Bati, would you like to add something? And I would like you to, I think one last question also address that. This one student is asking that how we as students can help play a role in dealing with the disasters, probably especially with women and something like that. So please, Pak Bati.
Yeah, thank you. I just would like to also add what Titi just said. The danger of politicization of disaster.
Yeah.
She mentioned about how there has been cases, or there have been cases in which they just want to spend the budget, and then as long as they use up the budget, then they feel that, well, we have already addressed that issues. So disaster become a kind of political issues rather than humanitarian issues. So that's there's that danger of creating that politicization of disaster. Another challenge that I saw is also the absence of coordinated programs and policies. In many cases, they have so many different programs, but those programs are not interconnected with each other. And there is no, well, this is also connected to the questions about, recurring disasters, right? When the disaster is recurring, then there should be a kind of policies that has a kind of continuations rather than a choppy kind of policies in which they only address short-term problems rather than long-term problems. So, more coordinations and more long-term perspective are needed in that sense. So the next questions about the role of students. That is very important. I think the role of students can be very influential, right? It depends on what kind of involvement you want to have, right? So first of all, you can always use your knowledge, right? Whatever knowledge or whatever major you have, and apply that in the community. Another thing is also use your privilege, right? If you have more access to the resources, then use that resources, to help with the disaster. But another more important thing is to think critically about these disasters, right? Critical thinking is very important, and sometimes it's missing, in many cases, right? So how can we use our educations and our privilege to create this critical thinking that will be applicable and useful to help support those who are impacted by the disaster? Here in my college, for example, we have what we call community engagement. Maybe in Indonesia, you call it pengabdian, right? So we can do it through that, community engagement activities as well, in addressing disaster issues in the communities.
Okay, thank you so much. Terima kasih banyak Professor Ati, Bu Titi for the very thoughtful and nice presentations this morning. Saya pikir Bapak Ibu sekalian kita mendapatkan ilmu yang sangat banyak. This very strong knowledge this morning about the women's roles in the disasters prevention. So again, thank you very much, Professor Kusujati and Bu Titi, Dr. Titi Kartika. there are still some comments actually in the chat rooms. Thank you so much actually for all the participants for your engagement this morning, comments and notes you leave in the chat room. So before we finish, probably Bu Titi atau Professor Ati would like to add like one more or two lines as the closing remark before we close this session.
Prof. Siti first.
Yes, Prof. Ati, please.
Okay, well, first of all, I would like to thank everybody, especially Papa Rector, Professor Zainal, Professor Nani, and also my colleague that I can see here. I'm so glad to get involved in these opportunities. And I also would like to mention that, as Putiti mentioned, this is just a kind of preliminary findings that we have right now. So we will keep doing the research and also the analysis. And we are also still learning, or I'm also learning a lot from Putiti as well. So this collaboration has been very fruitful for me. I'm a kind of avid supporter of collaborative, work, because to me, without collaborations, we cannot really create a meaningful work, because collaborations opens a space for us to learn from each other and also to get more holistic approach in looking at certain topic or certain issue. So yeah, I'm very thankful to have the opportunity to collaborate with Dr. Titi Kartika, and I'm hoping that we will be able to continue collaborate with, especially with Universitas Bengkulu. So I'm so glad to have this opportunity. Thank you so much, Pak Jansen.
Thank you so much, Professor Ati. So we are actually very lucky to have you as a collaborator for University of Bengkulu, especially for Dr. Titi Kartika for the research, for all the research. So Dr. Titi, do you have a closing remark? Please do.
Yeah, just add something that I feel so flattered that Prof. Ridwan Nurasi is coming, Prof. Zainal Muhtamar coming.
They're still here.
Yeah, still in here, and also my mentor in this research. Sorry, I didn't mention earlier, Prof. Rahmat Nur Sasongko, they're also present in this Omina, Prof. Nani, and all the colleagues, and in particular, Ibu Siti Kusudiarti, that, be like sisters to me. It's not only in, like academic work, but also in, like everyday problems, etc. So we chat to WhatsApp, etc. And then with many things, yeah. And I think I'm so, like lucky that I have very supportive, intelligent colleagues who live in US, and then give me some, or many knowledge and like very current issues that we can discuss, etc. And lastly, of course, institutionally, I appreciate with the RENPER, UNIP, and also RENPER Asia that allow us to present our preliminary findings this time. And yeah, it's a bit very terharu, ya. Okay, thank you so much.
Terima kasih Bu Titi. Sekali lagi terima kasih Prof. Ati. The committee would like to present certificate of appreciations for the two speakers. So silakan panitia. Online, Bu. Okay, this is that. So again, we would like to express our sincere gratitude for Professor Siti Kusudiarti and Dr. Titi Kartika for your time today, for your knowledge sharing. Thank you so much. So we are hoping that the collaboration between University of Bengkulu and Warren Wilson College will be lasting, like, continuous collaboration. So probably between Bu Ati, Professor Ati and Bu Titi, also with other staff members or faculty staff at the Warren Wilson College and the University of Bengkulu. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor Zainal Mokhtar, would you like to add something before we close the seminar today? Also, before we close, we would like to take pictures, like a photo, Panitia, sudah siap?
Pak Jansen.
Ya, Pak. Silakan, Pak.
Pak Jansen, would you like to invite them to come to the Prince Sokla University for the next year? We hope that we can get together there, and this preliminary research
can be presented.
Can be presented there. And I would like also to invite all of you to come to Prince Songkla University in RENPER Asia next year. And you may send your whatever, your research, your articles, whatever. Yeah, Pak Jansen, can you give them some information regarding this event next year? I guess on September or October, because Pak Jansen is secretary of RENPER Asia.
Helping Pak Ridwan.
Okay, Pak Jansen, please.
Thank you so much, Pak Rektor. Thank you so much, Professor Ridwan. So, Bapak Ibu sekalian, seperti yang Pak Ridwan sampaikan, pada tanggal, sebenarnya mestinya seminar International Conference itu tahun ini, tahun 2020, but because of COVID-19, we postpone the conference in 2021. Hopefully, semoga COVID-19 is already, the restrictions, the limitation for travel or something like that. With the COVID-19 itu sudah tidak lagi di September, October. So we will send you the details about the conference soon, very soon, because the organizer is the Prince Songkla University. So like Pak Rector said, as the president of RENPER Asia, we would like to invite you to join the conference in September or October, but we will send you the detail very soon. Thank you. So, foto bersama dulu ya.
Oke.
Panitia?
Siap.
Aku harus
Lanjut, Bu. Siapa ini hanya?
Siap.
Bu Nani yang ini.
Siapa? Oke. Pak Amir yang memandu, Pak Amir.
Oke, silakan, Bu. Wah, ini George Clooney dari Australia ini.
Pak Abdu kayak seniman aja.
Ganti profesi sekarang jadi pengacara, pensiunan banyak acara.
So, is it done?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
9 slide.
Oh my goodness, that's cool. Excellent, Bu Titi.
This is the second slide.
Okay.
Now this is the third slide.
Okay.
Okay. Be ready for the fourth slide.
Okay.
Smile.
Smile, everyone.
Okay. Next one.
Thank you for the last session. For the fourth is for the last session. Thank you
For the last one.
Last one. Is it done? Done?
Yes, it's done. Yes.
Done?
Done.
Okay. Okay, Bapak Ibu sekalian, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you so much for your participations in our Horizon seminar this morning. Very good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima
kasih. Terima kasih semuanya.
Waalaikumsalam.
Bu
Salam sehat
Siti.
semuanya.
Ali, apa kabar, Pak Ali?
Amin.
Selamat malam Mbak Ati.
Iya, terima kasih.
Thank you.
Malam Dek Ati, ya sleep well.
Tinggal tidur nih.
Semoga ilmu bermanfaat semuanya.
Digangguin menit.
I talk to you tomorrow, ya. Okay.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
see you. Thanks.
Thank you everybody.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum Ustaz.
Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Nggak mau ditutup.
Nggak mau ditutup ini kayaknya.
Ini Prof Jainal luar biasa memfasilitasi kita bereuni.
Iya.
Silakan dilanjut. Lanjut, masih ada ini waktunya.
Berlanjut ya Mbak Lase ya, kangen terus nih.
Ya ini Prof Titik nggak tidur ini.
Mbak Ati, ya tengah malam di sana.
Saya izin keluar ya. Ada rapat lagi nih.
Monggo. Makasih Prof.
Assalamualaikum.
Saya juga izin keluar Bu Nani ya.
Terima kasih Pak Yansen.
Sampai ketemu lagi Bapak Ibu.
Terima kasih semuanya. Pak Agus Joko nih ditunggu presentasinya besok. Pak Ujang apa kabar? Ini dari
Terima kasih,
presentasi ya. Iya, mahasiswa kami juga. Terima kasih Dian, ada Muhammad. Terima kasih Pak Toto. Apa kabar Pak Toto? Terima kasih.
Apa kabar Jogja Pak Toto?
Jogja Demayem.
Hujan terus jadi ada mayem.
Mantap.
Pak Ali mana tadi Pak Ali? Ali Munawar. Prof Ali Munawar tadi ada keluar ya?
Udah keluar kayaknya, Mas.
Ya udah. Assalamualaikum.
Semuanya izin keluar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Iya semuanya. Terima kasih semuanya.
Bapak Ibu. Saya izin.
Terima kasih Bro.
Keluar
ya,
juga.
Teman-teman. Izin keluar
Saya
Bro.
izin keluar juga.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Ujang, Mbak Tati, terima kasih Pak Hendri juga. Mbak Steph.
Ya, sukses selalu ya.
Terima kasih, jangan sering datang terus aja ya kita undang. Pak Kanang terima kasih juga ini sambil rapat ikut kita ini. Prof Mahdar juga. Ini Owen gimana ini mahasiswa kami nih? Banyak belajar ya Owen ya. Itu Pak Hendri terima kasih.
Ya, terima kasih Prof Nani. Saya
Siap,
izin keluar ya.
Siap, salam untuk keluarga Mas Toto.
Sami-sami.
Pak Dedi Bahtiar juga terima kasih. Pak Pri, apa kabar Pak Pri? Oke, terima kasih semuanya.
Dadah.